All right, let's get started. Welcome everybody to the Pull List Show. This is Daniel again from the Next Issue podcast. Thank you for joining me. We're doing this a little bit earlier in the weekend because there's a lot going on this weekend. Just a quick update. First, tomorrow I'll be going to watch Birds of Prey finally, and Birds of Prey and the Emancipation of the one and only Harley Quinn, who we have here tonight. Decided to just prop the poster up since it keeps falling. Um, and then later on, I have a movie podcast with some of my friends, so we're gonna actually record our Birds of Prey episode tomorrow as well. And then on Sunday, we'll be recording new next issue podcast. So full weekend. Um, a lot of stuff to kind of cover today, but we'll get started. Excuse me. So we'll get started with the comic books for this week. There's actually quite a it's a good stack of books I think for this week. So we'll do that. We'll go over the books, and then I'll talk a little bit about what's coming up on our podcast for next issue, and then we'll go from there. But yeah, this is why it's on a Friday night. I hope you're having a good week going into the weekend. So the first book we have this week, it's Joker / Harley, Criminal Insanity, written by Cami Garcia, with art by Miko Soyan and Jason Badawer, colors by Annette Kwok, and letters by Richard Starkings of Comic Craft. With this cover is by Francesco Mattina. So I wanted to start with this book because first, I don't have a lot of DC books to talk about, but like I said earlier, the Birds of Prey movie's coming out, so Harley's kind of all over the books as well. This one's still a Joker / Harley book, but I think I really like the fact that this book, the main premise of this book is that it's about Dr. Quinzel really working with the Gotham Police Department to figure something out, figure out a crime or what's going on. Obviously, there's some Joker shenanigans that it's involved, but these Black Label books, I've really been enjoying them. A lot of them have been Batman centric, but they're finally starting to expand. We had the Superman book by Frank Miller and J. Romita Jr. We have the Constantine book. There's a Hellblazer book. There's a Question book by Jeff Lemire. There is what's the name? We have a Wonder Woman book, Wonder Woman Dead Earth by Daniel Warren Johnson, who's one of my favorite creators. So yeah, these Black Label books. They're really covering a kind of a niche that I really enjoy because it's a place where the books are just small series, not really connected to anything else, so they can just really go all out with the stories. The format is nice. I was I was not a big fan of the oversized magazine size format, but once you kind of get used to that, these are actually kind of nice to put all together, and you can put them in your bookshelf like that. So I've really been enjoying them. I'm not caught up on this one, so I've only read excuse me, I've only read the first issue of this book, but I definitely recommend it. Next up, we have Justice League number 40. This marks a new beginning for the Justice League book. Up until now, we've had the run that Scott Snyder has been writing with some issues by James Tynion IV, with art by Jorge Jimenez and I want to say Jim Chung. But here we have a change in team, in the creative team. The writer is Robert Venditti. If that name sounds familiar, you may have read some of his Valiant work prior, with pencils by Doug Mankey, who's a classic artist. Richard Friend is inker. David Barron on colors. and Tom Napolitano on letters. This cover is by Brian Hitch. Um, so yeah, this book kind of marks a new era for the Justice League. I'm gonna check this book out. I was thinking of removing the Justice League from my pull once Scott Snyder run was over, but it's number 40, so it's a nice round number to kind of finish up on if I do decide to drop this book, and then we'll just go from there. So stay tuned for the show. You'll see if I did drop it or not. The next book is an anthology book, Crimes of Passion. There are too many creators for me to name because there's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. There are 10 stories in this book. This is Detective. This is DC Comics' Crimes of Passion one shot of kind of like their Valentine's Day holiday anthology collection. I mean, I really like these books. I'm not a big fan of the $10 price tag, but luckily since I have a pull list at Sanctuary, we get 20% off, so that kind of helps curb that. The stories were actually very good. I read this the other day, and just kind of seeing stories from all over the DC universe is very interesting. They are all kind of there is a theme of romance here, um, but it's really interesting how that theme kind of goes from one character to the other. I think one of my favorites. There was a Batman story here. There's two Batman stories if I'm not mistaken, but I always love seeing Black Canary and Green Arrow. They get their own story. So if you like that kind of stuff, go check this out. If you wait around long enough, you might find this on a sale. One of the stores might have a sale. Um, but that's all the DC books for today. So we'll move on to the independent books. First up is from Boom Studios and IDW. This is a crossover event. Power Rangers and Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles number 3. This is 3 of 5. I think when I mentioned this book before, I haven't read it, but I'm all in. This is written by Ryan Parrott with art by Simone DeMio with assistance by Alessio Sono, colors by Walter Biamonte and Igor Monti, letters by Ed Dukeshire, and cover by Dan Mora. If you are able to tell on the cover, this is the Shredder, but his armor is themed kind of like the Green Dragon from the Green Ranger. So I don't know what's going on. I haven't read this book. I'm waiting for the the two next issues to kind of come out, so I can read it all at once. Also, in the back, there's some promotion art for the Shattered Grid story. This was a massive crossover that happened, I want to say maybe a couple years ago. Maybe it started 2017, ended 2018, or maybe 2018. Um, it was a really cool story that brought in all the books from the Power Rangers. It tied in everything. Introduced, I don't think it introduced the villain Lord Dracon, but it it definitely brought him to the forefront. If he was already, I think he was previously introduced, but that's the book where he really went after everyone. Next up, we have a book from Aftershock called The Man Who Effed Up Time, and I'm not censoring that. That's the name of the book. It's written by John Layman with art by Carl Mustard. I'm not familiar with them. D. Conifee on colors and John Layman on letters. Um, this is the number one. It's from Aftershock Comics, who they really do. I think they do great work. Picking up a few series from them if you've seen them here before. Um, the main thing I got this recommendation for if you watch these videos before or follow me on Twitter or something, or just look at my laptop right here, you'll see that I listen to the I Read Comic Books podcast. This was a recommendation from them, from Mike, the host. So I definitely figured I'll check it out. I think I've read John Layman before. If I'm not mistaken, he wrote Chew. I was not a big fan of Chew. It just really wasn't for me. But I mean I know a lot of people really like that, so I figured I'd give it another shot. Next up, we have Zuko, issue number 1, written by Daniel Barnes, illustrated by DJ Kirkland, colors by Sarah Stern, and letters by Crank. This cover is by Troy Little. This is cover B. This is from Oni Press. I don't pick a lot of books from Oni Press, but this one really caught my attention. Agretsuko debuted kind of like a series online. Then it was picked up by Netflix to be made into a series. I believe that's what happened. It all revolves around her, who she's an accountant that kind of has an as her escape from all the pressures of the world. She loves to go karaoke. She's in Japan. She loves to go karaoke and just like bang out some heavy metal like jams. I love the series on Netflix. So I definitely wanted to check out what they would bring to the comics for this series. I really like the art style too. All the characters are anthropomorphic animals. So there's a snake and a panda and all kinds of stuff. I believe she's a red fox, if I'm not mistaken. Yep, I think she's a red fox. This doesn't say. I don't know if this is an ongoing series or not. I'm gonna pick it up for the first few issues, and hopefully it's as good as the show. And then we'll go from there. Uh, Now that was all for independent books, so we'll move on to the Marvel books. And this one was kind of a surprise. This is Savage Avengers Chapter Zero. So it's weird that they decided to do a zero issue, but I shouldn't be surprised. I think Marvel knows that. I mean, comic book publishers know that issue zeros and issue number ones they sell out a lot. This is Savage Avengers issue 0 by Gary Duggan, Greg Smallwood, and Travis Lanham. And then there are a few pages here that crossover with Uncanny X-Men. And then, the pages from Uncanny X-Men that they used for this book were by Chris Claremont, John Romita Jr., and Dan Green. The cover is by Greg Smallwood. If you're not familiar with this book and you haven't seen any of the videos before, this book takes a very weird cast of characters. It started with Wolverine and Punisher and Venom and Elektra, so it was just a weird amalgam of a team that got put together, and it looks like they have a rotating cast because this one feels more magic related, as you can see in the cover. Doctor Strange is right there. Yeah, and then there's like a sorcerer in the back. Also, if you open the book, you can see that magic is there, which is kind of where the crossover with the X-Men kind of comes in, I think. So, and since we're talking about Jerry Duggan, I'll go ahead and talk about his next book, Marauders number 7. This begins the second arc of Marauders. This is by Jerry Duggan with art by Stefano Caselli, Edgar Delgado on colors, and Corey Petit on letters. Excuse me. Um, as you can see here on the cover, Callisto is part of the book. I have read this book, and I can tell you that Callisto does definitely show up. So if you're a fan of the Marauders, well, read Marauders then. But yeah, this book, I think I tweeted out earlier in the week. This is my favorite book out of the X-Men. Really, I love the team that they're putting together. So, okay, next up, Doctor Doom number 5. Yep, written by Christopher Kenwall with art by Salvador La Roca, Guru FX on colors, and Corey Petit on letters. This is the 5th part of the Doctor Doom story that we began a few months ago. I think this is the book. This is the issue where things turn around. I haven't read it yet. I'm I was going to. I had some issues redeeming some of my digital codes on Wednesday, so I was unable to read some of the Marvel books that I usually read right away. But this one, Doctor Doom's kind of been backed into a corner this whole time, but I think this is where things kind of turn around for everything. So if you haven't been picking up this book, I recommend you do. It's very good. It's got great art. I think Salvador LaRocca is doing an amazing job. It also, something we saw from the first issue. Kang the Conqueror is there involved with some of these shenanigans, so I definitely recommend you go pick this book. If you're a Doctor Doom fan, if you're not reading this, shame on you. Okay, next up, from Doctor Doom, we're going to segue into the Fantastic Four. We have X-Men and Fantastic Four #1. This is something that has been coming for a long time now. For those of you that read House of X, if you read the first issue, there was an interaction between the X-Men and the Fantastic Four. As you guys know, Franklin Richards, who is Dr. Reed Richards' son and Sue Storm's kid, um, he's a mutant. He's actually an Omega level mutant. And I think this book is going to be about kind of the implications of what that means in this new world of X, after the dawn of X. This book is written by Chip Zdarsky with art by Terry Dodson, Rachel Dodson on inks, Dexter Vine and Carl Story on ink assist. Quick aside, it looks like Dexter Vine, I saw this week that he's having some medical issues. If you're able to, there's a lot of creators just kind of promoting that, there's a page where you can kind of donate some money if that's something you're interested in. Dexter Vines has been around the community inking for a long time. So if that's something you can help with, more power to you. Go ahead and if you do help Dexter Vines and you watch this video, if you send us a DM of your donation, I'll make, let me know what character you want and I'll send you a quick digital sketch. If that's something you want, it's something you could do. Just send me a DM at Echo Spider or send one to the next issue pod with the receipt of what you donated for Dexter Vines, or even for the Hero Initiative if that's something that you take part of. And it'll be a quick thing, but I can do something for you just to kind of promote and help. Anyway, back to the credits. Laura Martin is on colors, and Joe Carmagna is on letters. The cover here is by the Dodsons, Terry and Rachel. And first of all, like I said, I've been waiting for this book since I read that issue of House of X. I think it's been coming for a long time. That obviously the X-Men in this new nation of Krakoa, they want to have all the powerful mutants in one place because it's for their benefit. For safety, for power reasons, for a balance. So the fact that Franklin Richards is kind of being caught in the middle of this relationship, I think is going to make for an interesting story. I haven't read much Chip, but I have recently read some of his Invader stuff, like I talked about in our last issue of the podcast. If you listen this week, I think this week or last week, but yeah, I think it was this week when I read Invaders Volume 1, or at least I talked about it. So if you haven't read that, go pick it up. If you haven't picked this up, go read it. If anything, just look at this beautiful cover by Terry and Rachel Dodson. All right, next up, this book I have not read either. It looks very weird, very interesting. And I'm gonna get all spoiled by looking at the credits here, or looking for the credits. Here we go. It's at the end. So this is the Immortal Hulk, Great Power, written by Tom Taylor with art by Jorge Molina, Adriano Di Benedetto with Robbie Poggi on inks, David Curiel on colors, and Corey Petit on letters. And the cover by Jorge Molina. So this is kind of like I don't want to say crossover. Maybe it is a crossover. I don't know. I haven't read it. This was one of the books I had issues with my digital code. But Tom Taylor, as I mentioned before, he's somebody that I really enjoy his writing. I recently read his run on Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man Volume 1, so I need to read the rest of that. But this came out. The cover looks pretty cool because why would the Hulk be wearing Spider-Man's outfit? So who is that? Is that Peter? Is that Bruce under the mask? Is it a combination of both? Is it neither? We know there's many Hulks, there's many Spider-Mans, so definitely wanted to check this out. All right, next up we have Ant-Man #1. This book I picked it up mainly because it is a #1. I haven't read Ant-Man in a minute. It's been a real long time, probably since the last time I read Ant-Man. I believe when the movie came out, the first movie, they relaunched this series with Scott Lang as the main Ant-Man. So this one is written by Zeb Wells with Dylan Burnett on art. Dylan Burnett has done some work with Donny Cates in some of his books. I forget which book he was doing. I think it was the Thanos, if I'm not mistaken. We got Mike Spicer on colors and Corey Petit on letters. And the cover is by Eduard Petrovich. So main reason I picked this up, it's a #1. It's about Ant-Man, it's a character that I enjoy in specific scenarios. I really like the heist aspect of the character. So hence me picking it up. So yeah, I bought it just to check it out. This was also another one of the books that I had issues with redeeming my code, so I haven't read it, so I can't tell you a thumbs up or down. But I'll read it sometime this week. So if you follow me on Twitter or follow us on the Next Issue podcast or on Facebook, I'll kind of give a quick. I might even talk about it on the episode this week. Okay, last but not least, we have the relaunch of the Darth Vader series. This is written by Greg Pak with art by Raphael Yenko, Niraj Menon on colors, and Joe Carmagna on letters. The cover art is by Inhui Lee. I didn't see many. I did not see many variant covers for this, which is fine. I'm okay with only buying one Darth Vader book. Um, I did read this book, and it's great. Um, so this series, now that it's being relaunched, takes place. It takes place immediately after the end of The Empire Strikes Back, like immediately. But it flashes back and forth between that and memories of the previous movies, like the stuff even before Darth Vader or before Anakin became Vader. Um, so it's very interesting. It's written by Greg Pak, who is one of my favorite writers. I'm not very familiar with the rest of the team as far as like I can name a book that they've done, but this has many things going for it in my book. It's written by Greg Pak. It's about Darth Vader. It's a Star Wars book, and it's something that just it catches my interest. Like I'm not gonna lie, this is right up my alley. This book it feels like it's kind of like, do you ever go to the shop and look at a book and they're like, this book was kind of made for me? Like that's what this felt like. So you know, um, other than that, that's the last of our books. Let me check the messages, see if there's anybody that mentioned anything. My buddy Omar wants me to talk Picard. Sorry, Omar, I haven't seen Picard. I want to. I think I need to get. Maybe I need to have you on the show, just because you actually know like Star Trek. I haven't never watched Star Trek other than the movies, the J.J. Abrams movies, or the series that he relaunched. And then I watched The Wrath of Khan. That's kind of a really cool masterpiece, but you know that. But yeah, that's all the books we have for this week. Um, if I had to pick one as my pick of the week, out of the books that I've read, it's probably Darth Vader, my pick of the week. The books that I haven't read that I'm excited to read, it's probably gonna have to be this X-Men Fantastic Four crossover. Um, but let me know what you guys are reading. Let me know what would you like me to check out. I hope if you're watching these, you're enjoying them. I try to keep them brief because it's just kind of me ranting into the mic. But it kind of depends. If it's a big week for books, then I'll have a little bit more time. Um, if you listen to our show the past 2 weeks, we've talked about some really underrated books that we wanna bring to people's attention. And then the next book we went over the Marvel and DC previews. So there's a lot of stuff that we're excited about. Like I mentioned, we are recording. We're recording this weekend. So if you have anything that you want us to talk about or touch on or anything like that, hit us up here on the video. This goes on YouTube afterwards. You can leave a comment there. You can leave a comment here on Twitch. You can find us on Facebook. Just Google or search for Next Issue Podcast. You can find me at Echo Spider on Twitter. You can find the podcast at Next Issue Pod on Twitter as well. Like I mentioned, if you send me, and we'll do this for 72 hours from right now. So if you send me directly or the podcast a receipt that you've made a donation, then I'll sketch something. If you're not familiar with my art, just you can find me on Instagram at Echo Spider as well, and you can kind of see the stuff that I do digitally. And it'll be just a quick black and white thing. And last thing that I want to touch on, if any of you guys are going to the North Texas Comic Book Show next weekend, I think it's next weekend. It may not be. Check the website for that. I'll post something on the Facebook. I might cut this part out. But thank you for watching, and keep reading comic books. Also, go pick up this the new Breaking Benjamin album. All the Marvel comics have that in the back as advertisement, and I think it's really interesting that music like this is being advertised on comic books. So go check that out. I think you'll enjoy it. I know I like Breaking Benjamin, so thank you, and you have a good weekend. And go ahead and keep reading comics.